Welcome everyone to the Filthy Animals podcast. I love how you guys both turned to frame after we said it. We are going to cover a film today. We're going to cover a film from 1972. This film is called Ragbar. Actually, it's called Downpour, but in the language, is that what it's called with Ragbar?
Mm-hmm. In Farsi, yep.
In Farsi. This is an Iranian film. This is the film debut written and directed by Bahram Beizai.
Bahram Beizai.
Thank you. Here, Elyusha, you want to introduce this one?
I mean, you're already there. Yeah, Downpour, Ragbar is the Farsi kind of translation of it, or the original title. Part of the Martin Scorsese World Cinema Project. I think that's volume 3. It's on the last disc there, along with, I think, Soleil O, if you're interested in watching. It's a film that has been lost over the years for various reasons, or the quality has not been good. A lot of the subtitles are burned into the film. So Scorsese in the beginning talks about how it was tough to kind of navigate through that. But it's Beizai's first feature film. He had done a couple of short films before this. He worked in poetry. He's a playwright, obviously filmmaker. And the story is essentially a teacher who comes to a small town. I believe it's in the southern part of Tehran. And he teaches in a classroom. And the area is kind of more lower class. And he gets involved. He falls in love with a young woman who is the older sister of a student that he has. There's a little bit of a love triangle, and kind of has a little bit of a romantic comedy feel in terms of a modern approach, but also heavily influenced by Italian neorealism. I would say the films of Fellini. Obviously, there's French New Wave when you talk about the technical aspects, but that's basically kind of the setup of what the film is about.
Yeah, it was cool to see the on the little special features, the influence of like Bicycle Thieves that came up. Mm-hmm. I kept getting a 400 Blows reference with all the kids and how they were used. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it holds up really well. I think it holds up really well. This movie, I don't know. It seems like it could have been made in the 50s or 60s or 70s or 80s. It's kind of interesting, the feel of it. But I really enjoyed it. There's definitely moments that I grabbed, and I like to ask a question where if you were to have a still from the movie and have that still up on your wall, what would that still be? And there's a lot of great moments from this film that I kind of found myself, oh, that could work. Oh, that could work too. What were your guys' initial impressions on this film? And Jahanshah, was this your first time seeing this film?
Yeah, I believe it was both our first time seeing it.
Okay, cool.
It wasn't like a readily available film before, so it's good that now people can kind of watch it in an easy way.
Our parents had seen it before.
Cool.
They really wanted us to see it, not even knowing about it was, I think, even before the DVD was actually out, or the Blu-ray. And we go, oh, we'll definitely see it, but the Blu-ray is going to come out. Might as well see it in a nicer version and everything. So we got it a long time ago. We just hadn't had a chance to sit and watch, and I thought it would be a good time to watch it together. We watched it with my parents, and obviously my brother and I were there together to see it. So the one thing for you that I'm curious about is, how did you feel about the subtitles? Did you feel like did the story feel coherent to you, or did you feel like anything was missing, or what was your overall impression of that?
Well, in the beginning too, when it says like we spent over 1,500 hours kind of piecing this thing together, and I watched the special features after and just kind of took in the movie at first. She's bringing me some. Hi. Oh my God. Okay, thanks. You just leave it. Yeah. Thank you. Oh wow. Whenever Kendra makes a video or like an Insta story, at the end of every one of her Insta stories, in the background, I'll always add, Kendra, come over here. Like I'm this like rough hubby or something. I was very forgiving to the film, knowing This is the only copy. They had to kind of fight to get what they could from this. I was really caught off guard where the subtitles were basically like moving on you, just to come and find out after in the special features that it was kind of locked in. It was already there, right? It's kind of printed in. I got it. I got the story. I got the, I was really forgiving in the moments of like the neorealism vibe where, I mean, I love the scene where the kid takes out the box and he's playing with the bugs. And he's got the, I just think about nowadays where everyone has like an iPad or an iPhone or imagine we just don't have shit, like bare bones. How are you going to entertain yourself, you know, and how are you going to create art? And yeah, I got the narrative. I thought it was cool. I appreciated the bookends of the carriage. You know, I'm a big fan of kind of bookends, it kind of tying in. It starts with the carriage coming in and ends with the carriage going. I thought the casting choices were cool. I could have used more time with the children, the kids. I thought the kids were great. The kids all up on that tree is just wild, man. It's just a very creative and beautiful shot. But I got where it was going. I wasn't that into the romance as much as like other things that were kind of going on in the film, but I could appreciate it, you know?
And that shot with the children is definitely one of the best in the film. And you also look at that and you look at it and you see it's not CGI. So you had to get all those kids in there, and I don't think anything like that can be done ever again in that physically putting the kids in there. So sometimes that's kind of an interesting thing of seeing international cinema is the rules and regulations, especially older films, are a little bit different. So you might be able to get away with things like that. And even the camera work reminded me a lot of Russian cinema because when you talk about, you know, I Am Cuba or Tarkovsky's work, really kind of sophisticated framing. That reminded me of like a Tarkovsky or the I Am Cuba director Kalatazov's framing that he would do. It felt like a kind of that Russian influence was there. So, and just to give you a little bit of more, I mean, they talk about this in the behind the scenes, but Iranian cinema has gone through different waves, and he's part of the first wave. And Abbas Kiarostami and other filmmakers are Masoud Kimyai and Mer Jui are part of that first wave. But as the kind of the behind the scenes put it, he was kind of making it in a French New Wave film style where it was going against commercial cinema at the time, because Iranian commercial cinema, it was a lot of like tough guy films, kind of slapstick comedies, song and dance films, not a lot of substance. It was more kind of commercial. And he wanted to come with an intellectual perspective and say, I'm going to tell you a story, and it's not going to be about, he took all those things that were tropes in that kind of film. And at one point you see the kids like ripping a poster, and I would ask my dad, I said, what poster was that? And he basically said it was like a famous commercial film that they did. And I think that was his statement, Beizai saying like, I'm ripping down that ideology and I'm going to introduce this, which is not a commercial film.
Yeah. Jahanshah, what was your initial impression on the movie?
I sort of felt like the subtitle situation, I think, is tricky when you don't know the language. So there's moments where I think that, because I just naturally read the subtitles, so even though I understand most of the Farsi, I still just instinctively keep looking at the subtitles. So there's like a disconnect between me looking and what's happening on screen. So it kind of it was hard to get used to. Yeah. But again, it's the only copy of the film that exists. There's definitely, it's the film was in better shape than I honestly thought. I think visually they did a good job touching it up. The subtitles are just there, and that's just the way it is. And it was, especially I think the scene where he goes to the house and they're trying to get him together with the daughter. Mm-hmm. That scene has a lot of missing parts in it, and it's if you don't know the language, they just leave out random things that are kind of important. But I think the story it was like what, 2 hours and 10 minutes, but it didn't feel like a long movie. I felt like I could just keep watching it, and it was a very unusual style. I think just knowing Iranian cinema, even of the time, but especially after this time, it has a very kind of unusual editing, very modern editing, and a lot of jokes coming from the editing, like I know me and Illy like that guy when he comes in with the hammer, where it looks like he's gonna hit somebody, but he's just hitting the bell. It's just a nice like visual joke I think they did with the editing. And considering that I guess the film is like scripted and improvised at the same time, it's a little unclear how he was talking about it. It was a lot more interesting than I would have expected, and the music is really good. I think the music in the movie, I mean, most Iranian movies have good music, but this one in particular had a really memorable score, I think. So I had a lot of fun with it, and I want to see it for a long time. It's probably I think the only pre-revolutionary film that is on Blu-ray and restored like this. I think most of the pre-revolutionary films are in pretty bad shape. So it's good to see one that's actually in good enough shape that it can get mass distribution and people can watch it. Because most of those movies that they mention, that Beizai mentioned in his interview, those ones are in really, really rough shape, if you can find them at all. And they're obviously not subtitled either, so they're just kind of lost. I think other than the cow, most of those are pretty much hard to find. So it's good to see that this is easy to find, easy to access, and it's good that Scorsese is actually doing this. I hope he does more, because there's so many that need more attention, newer and older.
What was the like the meat of what I missed out on by just reading the subtitles?
It was some of the cultural jokes, or like what that scene that my brother's talking about where they go to the principal's house with his wife. His wife makes a bunch of little kind of comments at him, like kind of husband and wife tension, but in a silly kind of joking way. Yeah. And they didn't translate any of that. So it's a little bit of humor, but a lot of that is cultural. So sometimes you can't really translate it. But I saw another interview with him, with Beizai, and another film he did called Bashu, The Little Stranger. He said that in certain points, he purposely didn't even translate, because he said that he didn't want to get people lost in the words. And he felt like the emotions and images were more important and you could understand it. Kind of like, we asked you, hey, did you understand it? You go, yeah, I understood. I didn't have to know every single word. And I had this discussion with my father. I said, if you watch foreign films, they don't translate every single thing that's said by the person, or it's not said in the way that you understand it. They kind of have to bog down and say, what's the intention of this? How can we summarize it in 1 or 2 lines? Because some languages are very fast in the way that they speak, and you can't actually physically keep up with it subtitle wise. So it was little things here and there, some comments that were made. I'm trying to think of other specific moments, but some parts, it was like key sentences that the characters said to one another. I don't know if it was it in that scene with the daughter where she says, "This is my hand." Wasn't there like a build up to that or something?
Yeah. I think there was a part where they just didn't say anything in the subtitles, and I thought it was important, but it seemed like the subtitles didn't think that it was necessary to say, because that scene I also remember having some issues.
Well, and so did they? I just want to kind of lock this in. The subtitles were what they were working with English subtitles on there. They didn't choose to add on extra subtitles in those moments that maybe we didn't get.
No, it's burned onto the film, so they didn't add anything. I think they, out of respect, they just left it the way it is.
I dig that.
Anytime you see a movie in a different language and it's your native language, it will never be 100% translated from the way that you understand the language. So I didn't really hold it against the film. I mean, having our parents there to say, "Oh, this," because we don't know all the slang and all that. That was cool. But then I thought about you, and I go, he's sitting there and he doesn't know. That's why I said, check out the Scorsese intro, because that's kind of a little bit of context. And then the interview with the director was great, because he started to kind of lay a lot of the things out, even about the making of the film. They shot this, he said, in 24 different locations. They didn't have the best equipment. I wrote down a quote that he said, and it reminded me of just independent filmmaking, what you guys do. He said, each of us did the work of 4 crew members, and each of us regarded those jobs as belonging to us. Mm-hmm. And he said he really had to scrap to make this film, and he didn't have a lot of money. But he said not having that commercial intervention of, let's say, being financed by, let's say, the Iranian government, gave him more freedom to do whatever he wanted. So a lot of times he would improvise, or he would do things like we were talking about with the editing. I love that scene where it's kind of in the first probably act or going into the second act, where he decides he wants to confront the Mr. Rahim, the big guy who's in love with the girl. And he goes, I'm going to go fight him. And he charges at him. And there's a smash cut. And he's been kind of like carried on a stretcher out. You know what I mean? It really kind of Charlie Chaplin-esque type moment, which I appreciated. So I saw a lot of modern elements. I saw things like Adam Sandler. I saw School of Rock in there. I saw, you know, even things like Titanic or Back to the Future with this love triangle with kind of the bully. My dad even said that, oh, this character is like a little bit like a Biff. But in the behind the scenes, he even says that he didn't want the characters to be kind of this, again, reminds me of Filthy Animals. He didn't want it to be this distinct good, bad type thing, but just these are characters living in this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a Cassavetes vibe when they're doing the drunk fight. Reminded me of Mikey and Nikki.
Yeah.
I really got a vibe for Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. You know, when she's walking in the alley and she's got the hood on. The aesthetic choice of it, I thought looked really, gave me that vibe. I also had notes where the music I thought was a really great addition to the film. I love the sequence though when they're like working out.
Oh yeah, I knew you would appreciate it.
Those are not movements you do. They're like exactly. And I was like, it's so cool where you just have weights around and you just think if we just move around, we're getting blood there, we're gonna grow. It was cool. I appreciated the scenes, and that's why earlier when you're naming off all these different films and like influences that you've seen, that's why I was saying that it's kind of, if you didn't know anything about this film and you were like, what year was this film made? What year do you think this film was made? I would have a hard time. I would be, I feel like all over the place a little bit.
I even feel like there's a little bit of Woody Allen in there too, in terms of kind of the scrawny guy and some of the jokes and some of the surrealism, you know, in terms of the way that they approach the scenes. I thought it was really well done. And another scene I remembered in terms of translation or lack of it is when there's something written on the wall. It's when they're kind of meeting each other in the alley.
Okay.
They didn't even write what it said on the wall at all, if I remember correctly. So again, I'm thinking of someone like yourself, and you're kind of like, these characters are walking, but it basically just said, follow this line.
Oh, okay.
Keep going. But he didn't even, but I guess he thought once they meet, you kind of get that it was the
because
kid.
they do say it. They do say follow this line, but it's weird that you don't know it immediately.
Okay. Yeah. I just assume like I'm not alone in being a little lost on some moments, you know, if you don't know the language that like I get by the end, if I had questions, I would ask it, but I kind of got how everything worked out for our characters by the end, you know? Do you guys have a favorite frame from the movie?
I think for me, it's either the tree shot or that ending shot where they kind of dissolve away. I think those two for me stood out a lot.
Yeah, the tree shot is great. Also, some of the framing of him in the classroom with the chalk, with like the heart behind him. Yeah. The blackboard, those were really, really well done. Some of the kind of the stuff inside the school where they do at the end, the auditorium, like the larger scope of that look really fun. But yeah, there was a lot, like you said, a lot to choose from. Really visually stimulating, and also just editing wise, you don't really see that type of editing that early in Iranian cinema. And like you've been saying, it's kind of like this could be a modern type film. And there's so many things that you look at it and you feel like it has a modern feel to it. And I thought that was really well done. What about for you, James? Any frames that stand out?
The ones we touched on, I think, are ideal. Like the tree is really great, but I like the probably something there with like the buzz on the string. I just think is really, really rad. And there's the boy. It's like a little bit of like a Dutch, and he's like running down the stairs, and he's like holding the rock as he's running. I just think it's a beautiful shot. And then I also thought about like a lot of those ones on the wides where it's like a quick confrontation running up and down the stairs or something. I feel like those are the ones they only got one take for. When he talks about, you know, on some of them we only did one take. I felt like those are the ones, you know, we're like, hey, you got to get to here, run, come back. We got to get on with the day. The weightlifting sequence, there's some good moments there. There's a moment where the couple is leaning on the wall and it's like raining in the background. That's a kind of a beautiful shot. But I think also my favorite moment in the film is the we get like the sound of like a baby crying as we get just still images. I don't know, it just like there's some fun experimental things going on there where I felt like it's cool that he wrote and directed this. And I just felt like he was able to get a lot of things out of his system by, you could see all the different things he was trying.
Well, that's why I appreciate it, because both of you are, in truly independent level, and we're scrapping together to try to make different types of films. And I think this is a cool example of, I got one take, one person doing the job of 4 people. It's like we can all relate to that, and a bunch of different locations. But kind of sticking to that, did you understand what happened because when he's accepting the award and it kind of zooms in on the guy and then it cuts to the kids, it shows a bunch of different newspaper clippings and it doesn't give you the subtitle. And again, that's one of the things that
I don't know. No.
Again, if we were watching this individually, I know how to read like letters and some things here and there, but I didn't know what it was. And our parents said that it was an earthquake that had happened, and it was showing you images from the earthquake, and they were going to raise money for the earthquake. And I believe, from what I can understand, is Mr. Hekmati decided to donate whatever his prize was to these people who had gone through, kind of like his conscience was speaking, to go and donate money to the people that were involved in the earthquake. And then Rahim was trying to kind of outdo him again. So if you remember, he goes and like grabs a bunch of money. He's like, okay, I want to say like my pot is bigger than yours.
Yeah.
So that's what had happened there. But even the guy with the glasses, we were still trying to figure out. I would love to watch it again to see the meaning, and because he comes through a few times during the film, and I really like things like that where they kind of place it, but they don't. He didn't even. I mean, in the documentary, he goes into so much detail talking about how Parviz Fanizadeh, the lead actor, was like in rehab and going into the hospital, and because he had a drug addiction, but he died very young. And he was sharing all this stuff, and I thought it would be nice to know a little bit more about that. But that's cool. That's our job, is to watch it again and see what we get from it.
Yeah, I'm getting a brand new experience on the movie I watched here in the newspaper.
Yeah, that's what I figured, and yeah, things like that. I'm not sure why they didn't maybe even just put like something simple, but
they probably didn't even think of it back then. It's because just so many. It's so quick. There's so many newspaper clippings that come up. I think they thought there's no time to even think about putting stuff there, and so they just gave up.
Gnarly.
I'm going to ask this question because this is in honor of my father. What do you think the title means? Oh, he says it in the behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then.
but our father said it before he did, because he goes, "What do you think the title means?" Before we watched behind the scenes, he goes, "Well, Ragbar means like hard rain, heavy fall, like heavy rainfall, downpour, where it comes and goes, like basically him in this storyline." So it's a cool title. I really appreciate it. And also the use of rain is not easy. And I think that was all generated by them.
Awesome.
Not easy to do, especially to show up on film, and you're doing it like really on the fly, one take.
Well, I mean, you know how they did it.
It was
they put dough in the rain.
Yes, exactly. Which is he's referencing a popular Iranian drink that's absolutely disgusting, but a lot of people love it. I'm in the minority. It's like a milk. It's basically like carbonated milk. I know you're getting excited and you want to drink it immediately.
I think he would try it once at least.
He's cool.
Yeah.
He tried.
I'll try it all.
Yeah, next time I see you, I'm going to bring you a bottle of it.
All right, cheers, man. Cool. Let's get it. Let's get it. If you guys were to do a sequel to Downpour, maybe the same characters, maybe we get them today, see who we can get, see how they're doing. Where would you guys take it?
Well, we'll call it Updraft. And
nice. Nice.
Well, I think it would be interesting to see what would happen after the revolution and how the characters are, because when I was watching the movie, I was thinking in my mind, okay, why was this banned? And then I see all these scenes, and I can tell immediately why. It has like a woman, uncovered in all these scenes and all the stuff that the government hates. So they would definitely easy to kind of to see in their eyes, even though it wasn't justified to burn it and destroy it. But if the movie still existed and could thrive, if there was a sequel, you could see. I think you would either maybe Hekmati comes back, and maybe it's like another Downpour comes in, or it's him in another place, because it says he transfers. So maybe it's immediately after and not, 10 years after. I think it'd be more interesting to see 10 years after than immediately after, if it existed, but that's just me.
Dude, great answer. That's a great answer. Yeah.
I would say, I was going to say the same thing about him being transferred. That would be fun to see where he goes next. And I think another film we talked about was like Lean on Me and Dangerous Minds, and these types of teachers coming into a place and putting their stamp in. Yeah. But I think that's kind of an easy way. That's kind of like the more commercial way to do it. But there was a lot of strong female characters. Like he said, at that time, you didn't see characters that were this distinct from a female perspective. So I appreciated that. So, and this type of ending, I love the open-ended, how I am, you don't get the answers, they don't get together. Yeah. Kind of like it's close to City Lights in some ways, but not really. Because I do feel like Chaplin there's influence on this. In terms of a sequel, I don't know, maybe we see the kid and his sister, maybe they move to another town, or they move on, or she gets married to the guy and then the other guy comes back. There's a lot of different things you can do. It depends on the way you want to approach it. Do you want to do another romantic comedy? Is it going to be more of a drama? Is it going to be, something different? But I think, like my brother said, kind of the post-revolution world, it would be unique to see what they would do with that. But how about you, James? What's Downpour 2 looking like for you?
I like kind of that Mikey and Nikki combo, where you get a big kind of booze fest, but then maybe pull a little You Too Ma Tamien in there, like love triangle gets kind of thrown in the mix. I could watch The Boy Play with Bugs for about an hour and a half, so maybe something there where we see his bug collection. We see how that guy's doing as an adult, and we realize we're in a crime film and he's the serial killer. We need to track him down. There's all kinds. You nailed it, Jahanshah, with that setup.
I would even say that maybe the guy with the glasses becomes our through line, and he goes to another town, and he becomes, you know what I mean, like almost like a Christmas Carol type thing, where he's like the conscious of these people, and he goes to another town. Instead of a teacher, it's a gangster or something. Like we just changed the occupation of the person. It's a woman, whatever, or an older man who's kind of like almost like high and low, like he's running a business and he's kind of in this difficult situation. So it's funny just to even think of in this part of the world, they don't really even do sequels, but I really enjoyed this one, and I'm really glad we got a chance to finally see it.
Me too. I thought it was a good excuse for us to watch it, because we both would probably have the DVD sitting there for a bit and get it in, and now I got to check out the other ones on there.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I don't even know what the other ones are, but I know some of them, but it's just so awesome because Scorsese has a great relationship with international cinema, and especially Iranian cinema. He and Kiarostami were really, really good friends. Close Up, I brought up, James, when we did our favorites of the 90s. And that's one that I really definitely want you to see. And there's a lot of good Criterions of Kiarostami. I think my brother's got, how many of them do you have of Kiarostami that's Criterion?
I'm pretty sure that I have all of them that they released, because the only one I wouldn't have had would have been Taste of Cherry, which they just re-released last year. And I haven't seen all of them. I think the only one I haven't seen, no, actually, I don't think I have his Japanese one. That's the only one I think I don't have. But I have to. No, I think we actually bought it at Amoeba. I have to check, because that's the only one of his I haven't seen. That's Criterion. But some of his like smaller movies, like ABC Africa or some of these other ones, I haven't seen. But I.
Big bolts. So I think this is a good, thing to think about. Like James, you brought it up. Next time we do our 10 favorite Criterion releases that we have, because I know each of us have like 400. So that would be fun to see and it could be based on the film, the special features, the packaging, whatever. I think that would be a fun one to try to do next.
I could definitely do 10 with that. The movie theater experiences, I was like, oh, it was way too much fun all over the place. Should we wrap here and then just talk for a minute before we head out?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Bye, everybody.
That's like the one of the barbarian soup.
I just gotta keep pushing the log for a couple hours a day, and I'll feel good.
Feel the pain.
Yeah.